Hello everyone, my name is Pedro Souza and I'm the product owner of CM Builder, a 100% web-based application designed to help construction professionals to manage their resources and build 4D simulations of the construction site logistics and sequencing, also linked to their resource cost database. So this is going to be a part of our CM Builder tutorial series, and the challenge today is to create a 4D simulation coming from a BIM model in 30 minutes or less. So let's see how it goes. You can go into our product website, cmbuilder.io, and from here you can either start a free trial account if you don't have an account with CM Builder, or you can log in and you can just type in your email, and then you start logging in and you will be sent right to your company account, right? So in here you can see all the projects that you have and start working. The first step is to go into export, then you can hit IFC, and here we suggest that you would go into modify setup and choose the IFC version 2x3 coordination view. But also, if you have feature your model, you can go and click on export only elements visible in view. So you only have an IFC file that is optimized and has only the parts that you want, right? So if I hit OK and then click export, this would export a file, but I already have this file already here in my computer that I'll be able to use on the demonstration today. The first step is that you would just click create, and this pop-up would show over here, and this pop-up will allow you to type in the project name. I'm just gonna go and click and type in demonstration New York City, and you select a address over here. So I have an address over here that I can copy, and I'll select this address and select this point. You can check if the address that you selected is in the right location, because sometimes the address in drawings are not detected by Google Maps properly. So you can just go in here and override that selection by clicking on the map. It should select your location, and you can decide also what size of map tile you want. Keep in mind that if you choose to get a larger size of a map tile, this will slow down the performance a little bit on the creation. But while using CM Builder, there will be no trade-off in terms of performance. So I'm going to choose a topographic map that will have the terrain elevations, and just hit create with a small tile map size. Right, so over here, this is the landing page where you can select to put in a thumbnail just by clicking here or copying an image. You can check what is the map tile that you exported by clicking on this expansion arrows over here. This is where you would just check if your address generated the map size that the map tile that you want, right? So for example, this building that I'm going to showcase today is located right over here, so I have a fair amount of surroundings on this location that will allow me to analyze my product quite well. All right, so you see that you have all the buildings on the downtown Manhattan on the model as well, that will allow you to take some decisions about the interferences of those buildings in your project. So over here as well on the project page, you have the concept of scenarios and building sets. So scenarios are basically all the configurations that you want to run and you want to check and you want to compare on your project. So for example, if you want to compare what is the outcome of having a project that has one crane to a project that has two cranes, you can create one scenario, duplicate that, and just apply the changes that you want to see and compare, right? So you can then have both models open at the same time and check the visuals, check the 3D, check the resource schedule, and so on. So, and the building sets are basically the folders in the way that you would manage your BIM models inside Builder. So you can bring in as many models as you want, and you can create as many building sets as you want. And those will be a repository of 3D models that you can just pick and choose while you're doing your scenarios. But keep in mind that one scenario is always linked to one building set. If you were active in one scenario, you will only be able to use models from one building set, but the opposite is not true. So you have one building set that has multiple scenarios linked to it. Okay, so I'm going to show a little bit on this project how you would import models. The model that I just created over there on Revit, I can just come in here and create a building set that will be called, I don't know, structure and facade, for example. And you can upload FBX models, step models, and IFC models, but the total size for these models must be 1.5 gigs, and then you can just bring them over here and hit create, and this will take some time uploading this model and sending this model to our server. And then the next step is that this model will be cooked and processed to be optimized to have a better web performance, right? So you're running all these capabilities, all these 3D modeling empowerment for you on the web browser, but we need to reduce this file size so we won't take too much out of your bandwidth for the internet. So we really prioritize performance to have without compromising the quality, of course, right? So this model was around 100 megs, 90 megs, and it's taking some time to upload. And after that, we will go through the cooking process. Okay, so the uploading process just finished, and you see that this card over here, this little folder that was created with my building models inside of it. So you can see that I just uploaded one building model that has everything combined, structure and facade, just as a demonstration. But the model that I will actually use has structure and facade separated, so it can show what would be the case if you have two models working at the same time. So you can click further on, expand to see what is the cooking status of that project, of that model, right? So once this is cooked, you'll be able to see a preview of that model and check it right away if this is the right model or so on. Okay, so I'm just gonna go back over here and open the project where I have my models already cooked. Sorry, just going back, opening the building sets, and over here you can see that once the model is cooked, it is ready. So for a model that size, 100 megs, it would take around 1 to 2 minutes to be done, and you can check them in here by opening and see if the cooking process was done properly. So you see over here that I have my facade panels all exposed, and then I can also open the next model that is my structure model that is all over here. So you can zoom in and zoom out and have a better understanding of these models as well. Okay, cool. So if I go back and go into my demonstration scenario, I'm going to show you how to create a scenario, right? So I already have a scenario over here that is created as a demonstration, but I can just go in and click create a scenario, where you can create a scenario with a 3D model or without a 3D model. So if you don't have a 3D model, you can still perform all of our SCM Builder actions and use all features using our massing tool. So this is will be covered in another video, and for now we are using 3D models, right? So you can click to create a scenario with 3D models. You can define your start date, you can define your scenario name, and also you can choose what is the building set that you created with the models that you're going to use, or you can choose to upload a 3D model to existing building set, or create a new building set and also upload the models at the same time, right? So it's up to you to decide how you want to do it. So once you hit create, the models that are the next step is that you're going to go right into the site planning. So the site planning that I'm going to show right now, you see that you have a map tile that represents the area that is selected with all the surrounding buildings. And in here, while this is loading, it means that my model is being brought into the site. So because the model, the software doesn't know yet where it should place the models, you see that it is placed over here right in the middle of my map without any locations. So I'll just leave the model right there for a second, and I'm gonna find where I'm gonna put these models based on my drawings and my references, right? So this is where this building should go in, and for now the first thing that I should do is to draw a line to define my project north. So if I click here and draw a line, and I'll define my project north, this is where my building is going to be placed. So I'm just gonna select a line that will represent that that indication of my project north. When I hit next and click define project north, I can just click on this arrows, this little icon over here that will snap the map into the project north or to the global north, right? So right now this is snapped on to project north, and I can decide to choose into 2D and 3D view from here as well, right? So now, because we're going to create a 4D simulation in here, I'm going to start creating my milestones. So the first milestone that I'm going to create will be called project setup. You can go into nominal state over here, hover your mouse on top, and just click plus, and then you can just go and type in the milestones that you want. In this case, I'm going to create a project setup, and in this project setup, I will be demolishing these buildings. So I will just like hide these objects for now, where I will be able to see that these buildings were demolished. And I'm also gonna bring my models to the right location, right? So if I everything that you want to move on CM Builder, you double click it. So I'm gonna double click this model, and I'll see that some handles were exposed to me here, and I can decide to move these models to the right place. So remember that I uploaded two different models. So one model represents the structure, and another model represents the facades. But for now, I'm just gonna move one at a time, and I can visualize and locate these models according to my site. So also we have the drawing overlay feature that will allow you to actually bring in the 2D drawing and use that drawing as a reference, so you can position your model according to that 2D drawing. So, but this will be covered in another video. And for now, I'm just gonna roughly place my model into this location that I can see on my drawings. That is the final location, and I can just roughly place them around over here. So there is a second model that I want to bring in here as well. Oh, so just 1 second. I forgot that I need to rotate this model. So I can click on the translate and rotate menus over here, these icons, to choose what is the type of translation that I'm going to do, what is this type of manipulation that I'm going to do, sorry. And I'm going to click on this wheel and rotate it while holding shift, so I can have this rotate that on increments of 45 degrees, right? So I can just now check my model according with my surroundings and also place it on the site, right? So the other model, I want to place this model exactly the same way. So I just gonna, with my first model selected, I'm gonna click on switch to global position, and this will expose me the values that I use to move that model from the start location to the end location. So I'm just gonna go and copy these values over here by double clicking one and double clicking the other. So minus 49. And once I hit enter, you see that that model will change, will move location. So minus Y as well. So you can just do a Control V over here. And then when I hit the other one, the Z position as well, double click my other model and hit enter. And the other one, I still need to do a rotation, right? So when I did a rotation of 108 degrees for the other, for the first one, I need to click rotate on this one and do a Z rotation, right? So the 0, 0 of that model is a little bit offset from the actual model. So don't worry that if you have the exact same values over here, the model will end up in the same place. Okay, so now I have my models in place. I can start creating my site. So for now, I'm gonna hide all the surrounding buildings just so I have a clean view of my model. You can just go in here in the view controls and hide your surrounding buildings. And I'm gonna start by positioning my my property line. So I can change to 2D view to allow me to draw this with a little bit more precision. And I'm gonna create a property line over here that will represent the outlines of my terrain. Once I hit close, or I can hit enter or select the first point, and then I can go into my temporary works and select the logistics and facilities, and go into fencing, then chain wire fence, and also select points that will represent my fencing location on this side. So these models over here that you're gonna see exposed at sometimes in CM Builder, they are coming from a company catalog, right? So that company catalog can be edited further from your company and so on. But for now, just you will be exposed to all the elements available for you to place on the site over here. And in another video, I'll show you a little bit more how to edit these company catalog items. Right, so while I'm doing my project setup, I'm gonna just, because I have my model exposed, I'm gonna just place the rest of my elements that I want to have on my site. This is just like one way of doing it. You can add these elements later on if you want. You don't need to add them all at once. It's just because I have all my model exposed at the moment, so it allows me to like take some decision on how to place a crane, for example, and so on. So I will just do the height of the crane a little bit later on. So on my project setup as well, I'm gonna put over here on my logistics and facilities, I'm gonna put in an office. So when I select to put an office, I can drag and drop this element to my site. And when I say double click the office, for example, I can just adjust that further on and create like bigger offices like these ones. So you have some elements in CM Builder are parametric, so you can choose to edit them further a little bit more if you want. So I'm gonna just put an office over there, and you can start playing around and putting way more elements over here and selecting them and placing them on the site. But for now, we're just gonna put an office and a crate, right? So project setup, it means that it's the beginning of the site, so there is nothing there. There's no structure. There's nothing for the building is put into place yet. So I can just go and hide all my elements over here. So you see, if you go in the tree structure, clicking this icon over here, you'll be exposed to your tree structure where you have all. If you click on the tab building models, you'll see all the elements that you have in your place. So you see that I imported 2 models. So these 2 models will be over here on the root, and I can just go and expand them a little bit further on. And you see that on my facade models, I have all the floors defined for my facade, as well as in my structure model. I also have all the parts of my structure model over here as well, right? So to create the 4D simulation in CM Builder, you will need to interact with the tree, and the quality of the tree depends on the quality of the source model. So if you import a model that has all the tree structure well organized, it's going to be way easier to create these simulations in CM Builder. Okay. So the project setup, I'm gonna just assume that my crane was put into place. I'm gonna assume that my trailer is also into place, and I'm gonna just create an excavation over here that will outline this first floor, right? So I can also go back into my SiteWorks, select flatten terrain, and over here I'm gonna hide this surrounding envelope for my crane. It's just go into view controls, click on resource coverage envelope, and then I can start selecting some points that will represent the excavation of this building. So this is a simple building that doesn't have any foundation, just because it actually has a foundation but has no parkade, just because there's a very modern building where people don't have cars. They only choose to go to work, commute by bike. Just kidding. Just if you have a building with a parkade, it will work as well. It's just a matter of like demonstration. I can, for example, put in here a depth of an excavation of 1 meter, and you will see that once I click save, that 1 meter was excavated for my site, right? So just a representation. If you had a parquet, you could create a lower, a deeper excavation and then push your model down as well. Okay, cool. So I'm just gonna hide these floors back so I can have my representation. I can see over here now my foundation of my crane. I'm gonna move that crane down a little bit more just so the foundation will be in the right location. And now I can start creating my 4D simulation, right? So this, if I start create the 4D simulation, depends on how many milestones you create. So I'm gonna start creating. Each milestone that you create will be in an increment of 1 month. So I'm gonna start creating these milestones, and I will show the building, the parts of the building that will represent the work of 1 month on my site, right? So if I click the next one, I'm just gonna use the names that are gonna come by default. So we will save some time here, and I can see that I'm already a little bit past 20 minutes, but it's just because I decided to show like the two models coming in. But with a simple model, you can create these simulations way faster than what I'm creating right now. So I'm gonna go in for this building specifically because it is a prefabricated building. I'm gonna do cycles of 3 levels, actually 4 levels for each milestone. So I'm gonna start with 4 levels for my structure, and then create the next one, and then show 4 levels for my structure a little bit more, and then go and show the first 3 levels for my facade. So the facade will always lag behind 4 levels in relation to the structure. I'm leaving the first level of facade hidden for now, just because it will provide better access to the site for the workers, for example. So you can edit that simulation further on just like that. So I can decide I just created a 4th milestone, and I can now just easily start selecting the elements that are going to be executed in that 4th milestone. So you see that the building is reaching out to the crane already. So there's one thing that I forgot to see over here. Let's see if this crane has the right coverage in relation to my building. So if I go back to the first milestones and decide to show my crane envelope again, I can see right away that this crane needs to have a bigger arm. So I can go to the milestone where the crane was executed, and I can select adjust, and now I'm going to be exposed to the handles of my crane, to the parametric handles, where I can choose to increase the size of the screen a little bit more, right? So I'm just going to increase the size just a little bit, but also I'm going to move the crane to the side so I can see from my excavation reference over here that now my building is all covered. The reason why I wanted to go back to the first milestone is that everything that you do in CM Builder in a milestone will propagate onwards. So if I add a building, if I add an element on milestone 1, that element will be propagated or will be present on the other milestones. So if I decide to change a parameter on milestone 1, it will change that parameter up to the point where you decide to change the parameter again in another milestone, right? So you see now that I changed the parameter on milestone 1, and I can see right away that this building coverage over here now encompasses my whole building. Okay, so for example, I'm gonna change the rotation of this crane with the adjust handles. I'm gonna change the rotation of the arm, just based on, just to show that crane will be on top of that building for the whole time. So if you see, if I go back from milestone 3 to the milestone 4, sorry, the parameterization is also recorded on the milestones. Right, so you can see right away the work that you're doing. Now I'm gonna go ahead and create a new milestone that will represent 4 more levels of structure and 4 more levels of facade. Right, so this is how you would keep on doing on CM Builder, and you see that the structure is really catching up with the crane, the height of a crane. So on milestone 6, I'm going to increase the height of the screen a little bit more to roughly the height that I can have a freestanding height, right? So this design is gonna be these visuals are going to be improved a little bit more, where you'll be able to see what is the height of your building as you go up. So you see that now from milestone 6 to milestone 5, I have my building increased on height, and I can go back and start showing these elements all over again. So for each cycle, I'm creating a milestone. For each cycle, I'm showing up 4 levels of a structure and 4 levels of facade. Right, so in terms of a demonstration for this, I'm gonna create now just because I already showed up the case of having 1 month per milestone, now I'm gonna create a milestone that jumps up 2 months, right? So I can go in, edit the milestone date over here to represent that jump of 2 months. So I can go to August 10th and create my second milestone. Oh, sorry, my 8th milestone. And now I can just fast forward and do a cycle that would represent twice that work, right? So for example, I could select now 4 plus 4, 8 levels of structure, and also 8 levels of facade, right? So this, I just did this showcase. Oh, sorry, I created 8 levels of structure all over again. So I'm just gonna go back over here and select 8 levels of facade. 23, 27. I have 8 levels of facade over here. Yes, I do. So this milestone with 2 months. It was just to showcase that you can do bigger jumps in time if you want, right? So I'm gonna go back to my increments of 1 month, and then I'm see that now the structure is catching up with my crane again, and I'm gonna decide to increase this crane a little bit more, right? So I'm gonna go back to jumps of 4 levels for my architecture, and that would be the way that I would keep going, right? So if I had other elements on my site, like for example, I can put it in a truck in here. I can, let's do that. Let's go into milestone 2 and put in the truck that will represent the loading points of that milestone, of that at that point in time, where I'm getting my material from on that point in time. And for example, this is a prefabricated concrete building, so I can decide to put in a semi truck with a flat back of 21 meters, and I can decide if I want to place that inside my site, for example, like I'm doing right now. So I would need to create also the gates and the access points of that truck inside my site. You can do all of this inside Museum Builder, but for example, if I wanted to put this truck on the road, and I want to create a traffic control for this truck, so I'm just gonna rotate this truck over here and bring it to the location that the truck would be on traffic, and now I can understand a little bit more on the impact of that truck on my traffic, right? So I could go further and go into the safety package, and I can go over here and select to put a flagger. For example, I could add flaggers around, and I could also just maybe put traffic cones around and just start creating my traffic control plan, and see that I just created this truck over here on milestone 2. Now on all the other milestones, that truck will be present. I could move this truck to a second location depending on the milestone, just to show that my loading zones are changing depending on those milestones, right? So gonna try to be a little bit more straightforward over here and create finalize my structure. For example, let's create a little more levels by cycles, just to save a little bit on time. So 35, 39, and then show. So my structure and my facade always have a delay of 4 levels, right? So this is really interesting, because now if I'm planning to have milestones by month, I can always check what is going to be the relationship between facade and structure based on these milestones. So just because these levels over here are a little bit smaller, I can just go and finalize the whole structure through here. So you see that at this point the crane still needs to go a little bit higher, so I'm gonna just adjust this crane to represent that increment of height in the last milestone, right? So now I have 11 milestones to represent all my progress on my site. So I can just, for example, bring back my surrounding buildings and understand what is the impact of that crane on my site. So I'm just gonna remove these buildings over here. I think I forgot to remove them on the first milestone, and I actually hit them. I should have removed them. So this is on me. It's a mistake that I did, but you can see right over here. It's easy like that on CM Builder. You can visualize the adjustments that you need to do instantly, right? Everything is in front of you, so you can take those decisions. So you see that on milestone, on the project setup, I have all my elements, all my buildings over here exposed. But once I started creating those milestones, I hit the buildings, so it also records those view settings that you want. So you can create customized view sets if you want as well. So now I can just start jumping through my milestones and create a 4D simulation quite easily just by recording states of a model. Also, one of the great things that you can do on the site planning is to share a live link with any stakeholder that you want to collaborate with, right? So you can go into the share function over here on the top right corner, and then click to generate link and hit generate link, define an expiration date, copy this link and send that link to any person. The person that doesn't need to have an account with CM Builder to be able to access the link, and they will be able to manipulate the drawings, manipulate the, sorry, not the drawings, but the model, navigate through the milestones and visualize the plan, but they won't be able to save. So it's a great idea, a great way of sharing your link with, let's say, the developers, your clients, and enhancing that client experience, right? So they can visualize your plan right away. Also, this is the point where you can go and expand your work by adding more resources and doing a further detailed analysis where you can put your access points, you can put your different water tanks, you can put your dust sediment control, different traffic configurations and so on. And also you can do all this work in this scenario, and if you want to change anything but you don't want to lose that study, that specific analysis, you could go back, for example, let's say save this, and then you can, if I'm working on this scenario, for example, I can just duplicate this scenario and carry on the same configurations that I created to another scenario, and then apply those same changes to this other scenario. So this was a simple demonstration on how to quickly create a 4D simulation to improve your pre-construction planning, enhance your customer experience, and clearly communicate your construction plan to your team. So thanks for watching another CM Builder tutorial video, and subscribe for our channel for more content. See ya.